More NHL award news coming down here in just the last 25 minutes or so, as we do now know the winner of the Jack Adams Award, and it goes to Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper. Lindy Ruff was one of the finalists. We don't know yet, though, where he finished in the voting, but we do know Cooper takes home the award this year. Over to the NBA, it's game one of the finals tonight, Knicks and Spurs. Game tonight is in San Antonio with tip-off at 8:30. Knicks center Mitchell Robinson is expected to be available tonight following right-hand surgery, according to ESPN reporter Shams Charania. Spurs looking for their first title since 2014, their sixth overall, while the Knicks, they're looking for their third overall, but first since 1973. In the NFL, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons did speak with the media today, saying he has still about 4 months left of his rehab after suffering a torn ACL late in the season. Parsons is expected to start the season on PUP, and with that timeline, the return for him on the field is expected around October. Bears quarterback Caleb Williams is this year's Madden cover athlete, and 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has been issued an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor tied to speeding. We'll get more around the league when Sal Capaccio joins the show a little bit later on at 4 o'clock. And then some afternoon baseball today. The Bisons get a big win over Worcester, 12-0. And then in the majors, Mets at Seattle at 3:40. The Yankees have the Guardians in town at 7:05. And the Jays are down in Atlanta versus the Braves at 7:15. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
Monday, Tuesday, hump day is halfway. It's Mike Schopp.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
And the Bulldog.
Hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
On WGR.
Hump day!
Sports Radio 550.
Gonna be there in an hour, coming in my franchise shoes and my necktie, honey.
Well, there's a part of this where, I don't know if it's listeners or your boss, where they want you to be mad at everything, just be mad all the time. And I think when I was 20 years younger, I know that was sort of more my speed. And now I just never want to be mad because it's all just dumb. It's all just sports, like whatever. But I don't know. Are we about to be friends? Like, how did Lindy lose? I'm waiting. Like, how did he lose? Coach of the year, I know. We're about to be friends because he's the Sabres coach. And this is maybe like the first time you've ever heard me sort of like not poke at why Buffalo shouldn't have won something. You know, a lot of you want me to, maybe not me, but get mad at announcers who aren't more friendly toward the Bills and Sabres, which I think is just like ridiculous. I don't know. I'm spinning my wheels here. Like, I don't know how he lost. Coach of the year in sports is pretty much a junk award. It should be better. It even maybe, can you show me this? I don't think so. It even maybe should be more like this. Like there's sort of a, let's really try this time for the first time in the history of Coach of the Year. Let's really actually figure out if it's possible to do so, what the best coaching job was. How do you do that though? Hockey, I mean, every sport. Look up Coach of the Year in hockey. It's hilarious. Like, it's just, who's this guy? Who's that? Wow, what happened? Last year, the winner of Coach of the Year was Washington's coach. And, I don't know, couldn't get them to the playoffs. I mean, just, it's usually kind of a joke award. But, yes, I bet on it. I want to make sure I say that because somebody's going to remind me. I hadn't spent the money yet. I don't get it. I don't understand how Cooper wins. I don't understand it at all. Give Give me one box that he checked that Lindy Ruff did not check. This award in every sport, and hockey is the stupidest for this because hockey people seem to think, I mean, I know some of them, they seem to think they can understand hockey in a way that is not possible. This is the stupidest sport for this award because basically if you get the best shooting percentage and save percentage, you win. As long as we didn't think your team was going to be good, in which case we will try to find someone else who maybe finished second in those categories, who was the second best PDO coach, combination of those two fluke stats, and we'll vote for him because, the other team, like Avalanche. Why did the Avalanche coach win? Weren't they the best team all year? Like, why didn't Bednar win? Anybody know? Like, why didn't he win? What did John Cooper do that was so special? I'm really at a loss. When somebody on a broadcast says unbelievable, I roll my eyes because almost everything I've ever seen in sports was believable. Like that's not one of my words. That's not in my lexicon. Unbelievable sucks because basically just exposes you as somebody that doesn't really think that well. Unbelievable. This, though, is pretty close. I don't understand how you could vote for him. You have one team that has always been good, has a Hart Trophy candidate, has a Vezina Trophy favorite, has Victor Hedman, need I say more? Like, one of these teams is always good, which pretty much in sports tends to disqualify a coach from winning Coach of the Year. And another hadn't been to the playoffs in 15 years and beat them on the path to topping them in the division. I don't know. Did the broadcasters vote on this thing in like December? I don't understand. Didn't I just do sort of the Rob Schneider stand up and win SNL line in the last couple of days? Like, who are the that's Adam Sandler. Can somebody explain this to me? Because I'd like to know. I just have no idea how he got any first place votes. Why? Tell me. I don't need the money. It's okay. This is not a. Now this sucks for me because I have to keep saying that because I sound like I just sound like a bitter loser on a bet, I guess, to some people. But I pragmatically, I really cannot understand how anybody voted for John Cooper to win the NHL Coach of the Year award, Jack Adams. How, on what grounds? Why wouldn't you vote for the Avs guy? Or Montreal? Or, well, Pittsburgh's coach was a finalist, or Rod Brindamore. Like, what? How did this happen? Nobody's going to tell me because nobody can explain it. What am I waiting for? Nobody knows this answer. There isn't one. It happened, though. Wow. There's the tweet. There's John Cooper. He's got a cigar. He's at a hospital. Like, I'm sure that was all just completely nothing against people, serving the public in that way, but that was all just a coincidence. I don't get it. That's a team that was expected to finish in the top two in the division and did. Second. The Sabres have never been good. How was this? What did we do wrong? How was this the one year where that award doesn't go as expected? Actually, let me I'll try to make it interesting. Who was responsible for the Sabres' success then? Is there a GM of the Year award waiting to fall into Yarmo's lap? Or, I don't know, Kevin Adams? Dahlin was a distant third in the Norris. Who did it? Anybody? Who did it? I guess it wasn't their best player or their coach. Because I got Columbus's defenseman lapping Darlene for the Norris, fine. I'm not saying that was wrong. That's one. I mean, I don't watch Columbus Blue Jackets games. Do you? Let's be real. That's one where I can believe it. Sure. Darlene doesn't have to be the best defenseman of the year in the National Hockey League. But since when did we change the rules on Coach of the Year in sports? For my whole life, the supposed best coaches don't win these awards. Why? Because some other loser team got good one time, and so the people who actually are supposed to know things, who vote on this, decided that, it wasn't turnover luck, it wasn't shooting percentage, it wasn't ref calls. It had to be that the coach did this culture. It had to be this incredible coaching job, and then the guy's fired in 2 years. I mean, these are the people who are tasked with this. I like to see myself as one of them to a point where I care about who did a good job and not. I think it's ridiculous sometimes how these votes fall. And if I were ever in one of these rooms, and I've been in a couple and I get, shouted down and kicked out. I've been in a couple of these because people just don't want to hear it. It's basically you're kind of calling them out. I don't know. This to me does not make sense. Who wins a Coach of the Year award running a perennially top team that finishes second to a team that has never been good, whose coach, by the way, has won this award and even finished second 3 years ago? He's not a nobody, Ruff. Is that something that was discounted? The fact that he's maybe fourth all time in wins in the NHL, in NHL history? Did that work against him? Was he sort of lifetime achievement? Did Ruff already kind of come and go from lifetime achievement? And you've got a Tampa coach with a cigar whose Canada team lost and whose Lightning lost and who lost in the first round. And what is good coaching? I think it's incredible. I really do. And if the Sabres had been bad again, maybe this happened in the last 10 years or 15 years, and the Jack Adams Award went to some other, this does not happen though, went to some other coach who has been around a long time and has won a lot. And, even though some other team leapfrogged him that was kind of unexpected, well, we know from, this never happens. Certain metrics, we know how to think this through. We're not dogs. We can figure these things out. We know what good coaching comes close to looking like. I think it's astonishing. I can't believe it. I'm going to have to sell some cards. I don't know. I did not spend the money, but I'm going to have to do. I was counting on it. I thought, 7-1, Lindy Ruff. I thought that was looking pretty good, and what a rug pull. I don't know what else to say. Bulldog's in the hospital. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I cannot believe it. JJ is on WGR. You take it.
Yeah, I don't always agree with everything said on this show, but I'll say this.
No one should.
Not be more. You could.
Why would anybody agree with everything?
Exactly. That's the joy of it, right? The thing that really hits my buttons on this is as soon as everything turned around to the positive for the Sabres this year, the entire league, the theme driven into just about everybody's head almost every day was, the Sabres haven't made the playoffs since, 1698, and this building theme throughout the year. And then they win the division and you keep hearing it. And then every game in the playoffs, we're hearing, they haven't won a playoff game since, 2000, whatever, every 5 minutes we're hearing this, right? And then, so the theme has been building. This decision is counter current to that, right? I mean, it's blatantly against the theme all this stuff. And it's like, it could not have been more concrete and driven home just about every time the Sabres touched them. You know, I don't know. That's what really hits me is like this goes countercurrent to the whole momentum of the whole, you know, coverage of the Sabres run this whole time, right?
Fair enough. The playoffs don't count. Again, like sort of practically speaking here, we know this, I hope. The vote is in before the playoffs start. Yes, that was definitely a storyline. So what? Like the playoffs don't count. What needed to happen that didn't happen? I'm flabbergasted. A team that has been nowhere forever tops a perennial favorite, and that guy wins? What does it take? Did the Sabres need to beat Tampa Bay by 20 points? Did they need to beat them 4 straight? They went 3-0-1. What needed to happen that didn't happen? I don't know. The Sabres won one of the best and most competitive divisions in the history of the NHL. And they beat Tampa to do it. And they had to beat them head-to-head repeatedly in March and even maybe April to pull it off. And they did that. What needed to happen that didn't happen? The playoffs are irrelevant. The vote is in before the playoffs. The playoffs are fine. The Sabres won a round. The Lightning did not. As if, you know, if that could have helped, so be it. It didn't matter to this. What was wrong? What happened? I don't understand. Did the Sabres trade for Connor Hellebuck and ride him to the Atlantic Division title where Tampa Bay had to settle for Vasilevsky? No. It's amazing. It's amazing that Cooper won. It's amazing. Oh, I know. John Cooper is good at being interviewed. Is Lindy Ruff not? Is there a meaningful difference there? Like, oh, John Cooper. He seems like a doll. I can even go up to him and talk to him right before the gold medal game. Oh, well, they lost. What? Can somebody... I can't go back to Rob Schneider. Can somebody explain it in an intelligent way? I mean, it's hockey, so maybe this will just never happen, and it's Buffalo, so maybe this especially will never happen. Is this a story other than just like me and you? And Sam Panayotovich? Is this a story to anybody else? Does anybody care? Is ESPN going to talk about it? Is anybody going to talk about it? Is it going to be on Pat McAfee or Barstool or one of these idiot shows like that? Is it going to be on anything that people watch? Wow, how did this happen? If it were a different sport, it would be pretty good, I think. But it's hockey, and maybe it just doesn't rate. I don't know. This is just one of those days where I really can't. I don't know how to breathe. It seems really confusing. It's a Buffalo thing. It's a hockey thing, which doubly makes it irrelevant to most of the world. And I don't know what to say about it other than like what were any reasons why you would have considered John Cooper to have had a better coaching year than Lindy Ruff? Is there one? Did there have to be 5? Is there one? What is it? Did somebody get hurt on Tampa? I mean, was that a thing? Man games lost? Was that a thing? The Sabres were pretty good. If you take Kulik out, the Sabres were pretty good in that area. Like all their top guys pretty much played the whole time. Was that, oh, well, you know, the Sabres were healthy? I'm completely flabbergasted by it. I don't know. Ray is next. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Mike. Let me make a comparison this way. I'll tell you right now, if whoever the New York Jets head coach is, if they make the playoffs and they win a playoff game, I know playoffs don't count, but if they get to the playoffs, he's my coach of the year because the Jets are expected to do nothing. They've been nothing for 15 years like the Sabres. I mean, Cooper gets rewarded because he should have won, and he's got an MVP candidate every year, which, if he had a great year, fine, but how can you deny everybody? I like to go back to the preseason guesses and bets of where the Sabres would have finished. They came out of nowhere with they had some good players, but not stars, decent players, a Norris candidate. But my gosh, I mean, Ruff will never win it again unless the same logic is like, okay, he's due. That's silly. It's backwards logic. Just because somebody's due or they should have won it in the past, that does not make you qualified. And if all these percentages of Ruff was the favorite, 80-some% or whatever it was, what changed?
97.
Head-to-head? 90. Okay, even more so. You made a great point. Head-to-head, they played them when it mattered most. I know the players have to do it, but the coaches, the leader, it's stupid. It's stupid. So,
I don't know. Thanks, Ray. 97%. Sam was the second person who I found out about this from. He's like, he was minus 3,000. Forget that we like the Sabres. When does that happen? If anybody follows awards and odds, both, there's a reason why he was minus 3,000. Because it was obvious. Like, of course he was going to win. The Heisman Trophy, Mendoza might have been, along the way, probably got even higher, but minus 3,000, minus 5,000, minus 10,000. Like, you cannot bet against that because it's just throwing money into a fire. Yet, this time, it worked out. I don't know. Lindy Ruff has won this award. He's top 5 all time in wins. He has re-established himself in Buffalo as well as around the NHL as a top coach with what happened this year, which was miraculous almost. And, hopefully that's enough for him. We're not friends. I've got to think, I get older and a lot of this stuff means less to me as I do. And I'm sure he cared, needless to say, deeply about the Sabres, run and their eventual defeat and everything like that. I don't know if he cared about this award. He's won it. He finished second 3 years ago when coaching the Devils. He's won it. So hopefully he doesn't lose sleep, but I can't believe it. Just from a standpoint of somebody that likes to care about awards, honors, Pro Bowl appearances. I know how thin that runs, but I think that stuff should be taken at least a little bit seriously. I can't believe this wasn't taken seriously by voters. I just have no idea how they decided this way. And it's not all of the utmost seriousness, but there's a reason why it's there because, people care about it. Sometimes there's money on the line for the players, for the coaches, for bettors. There's money on the line on it. And so that's part of it. But really it's about legacy and a player's number of all-star games, a player's number of MVPs, a coach's number of these awards that goes on the page. It's part of your bio. You get introduced at the Hall of Fame, and this is what's said, and that all just helps it, make sense and everything like that. How does this make any sense? Well, I don't know how many different ways to say it. I think it's incredible. And yeah, there go the new shoes for the kids, I guess. They'll just have to walk around barefoot all summer. Sorry, kids. Tomorrow I'll bring some cards in and try to sell them to you. so I can atone for this shocking defeat. 803-0550. Sal Capaccio today. Matt Waldman today as well. Thanks for listening. Bulldog is off and back tomorrow. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
For more comfort, Now's the perfect time to make yourself comfortable with a new electric heating and cooling system from Belknap.
In Western New York, summer and winter bring extreme temperature conditions. Make yourself comfortable with Mitsubishi electric heat pumps, designed to keep your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. Call Belknap today to learn more.
I'm Gary Gorfel, president of Belknap. We work on your schedule. We don't charge more for weekends and evenings. That's why we say,
give Belknap a ring.
I'm really at a loss. When somebody on a broadcast says unbelievable, I roll my eyes because almost everything I've ever seen in sports was believable. Like that's not one of my words. That's not in my lexicon. Unbelievable sucks because basically just exposes you as somebody that doesn't really think that well. Unbelievable. This, though, is pretty close. I don't understand how you could vote for him. You have one team that has always been good, has a Hart Trophy candidate, has a Vezina Trophy favorite, has Victor Hedman, need I say more? Like, one of these teams is always good, which pretty much in sports tends to disqualify a coach from winning Coach of the Year. And another hadn't been to the playoffs in 15 years and beat them on the path to topping them in the division. I don't know. Did the broadcasters vote on this thing in like December? I don't understand. Didn't I just do sort of the Rob Schneider stand up and win SNL line in the last couple of days? Like, who are the that's Adam Sandler. Can somebody explain this to me? Because I'd like to know. I just have no idea how he got any first place votes. Why? Tell me. I don't need the money. It's okay. This is not a. Now this sucks for me because I have to keep saying that because I sound like I just sound like a bitter loser on a bet, I guess, to some people. But I pragmatically, I really cannot understand how anybody voted for John Cooper to win the NHL Coach of the Year award, Jack Adams. How, on what grounds? Why wouldn't you vote for the Avs guy? Or Montreal? Or, well, Pittsburgh's coach was a finalist. Or Rod Brindamore. Like, what? How did this happen? Nobody's going to tell me because nobody can explain it. What am I waiting for? Nobody knows this answer. There isn't one. It happened, though. Wow. What did we do wrong? How was this the one year where that award doesn't go as expected? Actually, let me make this, I'll try to make it interesting. Who was responsible for the Sabres' success then? Is there a GM of the Year award waiting to fall into Yarmo's lap? Or, I don't know, Kevin Adams? Dahlin was a distant third in the Norris. Who did it? Anybody? Who did it? I guess it wasn't their best player or their coach. because I got Columbus's defenseman lapping Dahlin for the Norris. Fine. I'm not saying that was wrong. That's one. I mean, I don't watch Columbus Blue Jackets games. Do you? Let's be real. That's one where I can believe it. Sure. Dahlin doesn't have to be the best defenseman of the year in the National Hockey League. But since when did we change the rules on Coach of the Year in sports? For my whole life, the supposed best coaches don't win these awards. Why? Because some other loser team got good one time, and so the people who actually are supposed to know things
he would have gone in unimpeded. 3.5 to go. Hurdle into the dot to Sissons. Back for Hurdle. He scores! Tomas Hurdle. Then it's 5-4 Vegas.
Fine, whatever. Sean McDonough, Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Sal Capaccio, Matt Waldman ahead. Before the Jack Adams news, I was planning on talking about John Tortorella and the ruthlessness of that move by Vegas that, what are you going to say? Like, it's not working? We don't know if Bruce Cassidy would have led Vegas to this point, but we will never know that. And when you fire a coach of a team with a middling record with 8 games left in the season, they win 7 of those 8 games and then pretty much prance to the finals and take the lead against a team that isn't losing to anybody. Well, but it's kind of it's an interesting one because I just don't think I could ever have done it or supported it. Imagine if Lindy Ruff had been fired with 8 games left. I mean, the presumptive Jack Adams winner, just like that wasn't even on the table. Maybe it's different because they've won a lot, and that's a different, I think, kind of organization in a certain way. Not in a good way, but they win. So who am I to talk? But we're not talking about that, at least yet. 803-0550 for your calls. CJ is next. Hi, CJ.
Hey, Mike. Good afternoon. I'm glad you're fired up. You're fired up about this, just like all Sabres fans are, because just to make a quick parallel, Dahlin was top 3 in the voting for Norris, right? And then you have a guy like John Butchergross, who's in the media, that he's not even in his top 5, and that's only one person. But there's no planet in the solar system where Dahlin was not a top 3 defenseman this year. And then you have Lindy, where he loses to Jack Adams. Unfortunately, I think he was a product of being punished for being the coach of the team that was irrelevant for the last 14 years, and he has nothing to do with that. But, it's a popularity clown show, and there's no reason why Lindy shouldn't have won the Jack Adams with what he did with this team, with having the lack of star power with basically just Dahlin and Tage, and that's pretty much it. But it's, this is another, thing we can throw on the burn pile that we hate about the NHL, because it's a popularity clown show that they didn't want to have Lindy win it this year, unfortunately. So
I don't know if I would say all that. I think there are definitely reasonable, I don't know, I don't listen to John Butchergross, but I think there are reasonable arguments that Dahlin was not top 3. I don't think he was ever likely to win. Quinn Hughes did not make the finals of that award. So I wouldn't hold that against anybody as like, well, they are obviously biased. I just, the point you made about what worked against Ruff was the Sabres not being good for so long is exactly how people win this award in sports. The Sabres were not an expansion team. It was not a secret that they were going to play 82 NHL games this year. This is exactly how it happens. He is top 5 all time in wins. There's no explanation I can understand. Keep trying. I appreciate the effort. The Sabres being bad before is not how he didn't win. It's how you would win. If the Sabres had finished 3rd in the Atlantic Division, 106 points, Tampa Bay, 109 points, flip it. Montreal, the same, 106 points. Well, Lindy Ruff, let's think about this. It's a 14-year playoff drought. Maybe something, because do they have first-team all-stars? No. Do they have a .930 save percentage goalie? No. In fact, this guy had to rotate goalies all year, which the easy button coaches never have to do. John Cooper in his career has never had to think about who his goalie was going to be in any important game. This team rotates between, ESPN can't say it, Luukkonen, and then, quote, Alex Lyon. What is coaching in hockey? What is it? Is somebody going to tell us that the Lightning played a trap system that was actually, they didn't even win it. I defy anybody. Maybe you can do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I defy anybody to make an intelligent argument that isn't just that, well, he had never won it before and his team's been good a long time, which is the lamest. That's just not how it's supposed to work. Give him a ring or something. Give him money. That's not how sports works. It's not how it's supposed to work. If the Sabres had been a wild card team and the Lightning had won the division, there's an argument for Ruff. There's an argument for Cooper. I don't think what happened allows for an argument for Cooper, yet he won, and it's not just because one person decides. It's a whole team of people that supposedly cover the league. What does it take? Wow. Jay is next. Hi, Jay.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
Just, being from the other side of the border here, I got to be honest with you. Like, the whole lead up to the Olympics just sealed it for Cooper. Like, Team Canada this year was about Cooper, and they started hot, and the narrative came out that he's never won it, and I think you just couldn't fight it. Didn't matter what Lindy's did. I think Lindy definitely deserved it. But if you watched, Sportsnet's TSN leading up to the Olympics, and then once you got to the Olympics, it was all about Cooper. And I think that whole thing about never winning it didn't matter what anybody else did. They had just decided at that point it was over. It was Cooper's. Didn't matter what Lindy did. I love the Lindy odds, and I was thinking about I should do this too. And then I thought, there's no way. Like, it's a waste, even though it should make sense. Just don't bet it because they're just going to give it to him. And even like during the Olympics, it was all about Cooper. And I got to be honest with you, we sucked at the Olympics. McDavid never got going. McKinnon never got going. If it wasn't for Celebrini, it would have been worse.
Yeah.
So I really think the whole narrative from this side of the border up into the Olympics, it was over then, in my opinion.
Well, you might be right. Of course, none of that is defensible. If I had a vote, I don't have a vote. I used to have a vote for the Heisman Trophy. They took it away. And I asked them what happened. I didn't get my ballot. And they said, well, we figured out that you don't cover college football. If that's fair. Like, if I had a vote for Jack Adams and I decided in January that I was all set, I don't need to follow the rest of the NHL season, I should not only get my vote taken away, I should get my job taken away. How does that make any sense? Again, maybe Jay is right. I think some of his instincts are good here. But none of that is any defense for anybody who voted. I'm still waiting for anybody on Twitter, on the phone, anywhere to make the case. Okay, well, this is maybe what happened. That sucks. What actually is the case for the guy whose team was the much bigger favorite and finished second to this one winning? What is that argument? Never has to think about who his goalie is, ever. Got the Hart Trophy finalist up top. What Norris Trophy winner? Hedman? I don't know if you know if that's right, but he's obviously been elite. What is it? What is the actual argument for this vote? Anybody? Randy's next. Hi, Randy.
Hey, Mike, this might be slightly controversial, and I can't believe I'm saying it myself, but when I saw Cooper win the award, I mean, I couldn't help but remind me of Allen winning MVP a couple of years ago. It's like, a lot of people would argue that Lamar Jackson clearly outperformed Allen that season statistically. And obviously the Sabres outperformed Tampa Bay this year, but you have two guys that have been in the conversation for the both separate awards for a long time. And, it's, I don't want to say sympathy, but it's like this is their best chance to get in. This is each league's best chance to give them the award. So I kind of think it falls in the same category as Allen winning it. So unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that is an interesting comparison. What we had with Josh Allen was the year before, so this is what, 23 and 24, right? Stafford won in 25. 2023, the Ravens go whatever, 1 seed, 14, 15 wins, whatever it was, and they beat the Bills in the course of it, if it matters, and Lamar Jackson runs away with the MVP award, and smart people, starting with Aaron Schatz, who was the one person to vote for Allen that year, one person did so, and so like, well, this doesn't really hold water that well. Like, okay, well, that's fair. I mean, that's a very thoughtful, intelligent guy who cares a lot about the meaning of his vote. Then 24 happens, and Jackson had his best season ever, and Allen didn't have his best season ever, and Allen won. And there was a little bit of that in the air, was there not? Like just sort of, well, he was kind of due. So be it. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck, right? I mean, I know that that's a real thing. It doesn't mean that it doesn't suck. It should never be how anybody votes for anything. Am I being too pie in the sky, altruistic? I like this about myself, and most people in my world don't get it. Every once in a while, somebody sends you, a ballot, an election for some person of the year, video of the year, cupcake of the year. Oh, you need to vote for this person. Why? Because they're in Buffalo. Like, well, I think that sucks because I've never eaten any of the other cupcakes. And even if they're in El Paso, I don't know that it's not better. I can't vote for that. We're doing okay. We don't need this award as a community, do we? We just don't need that. We're just going to... I want to vote for you if you deserve it. And where you're born, I don't care. I want to vote for you if you deserve it. That's my ethos when it comes to voting on things. So now we're that much closer, you and me. What is the argument for John Cooper? What is the argument? Team Canada? Team Canada blew it. Like, it's not even, what if you had decided, like the second caller ago, I thought he was, making good points. What if you had decided going into the Olympics that John Cooper should win the Jack Adams? Did you watch the Olympics? Did you then watch another NHL game for 2 months? What did you just, was it all just signed, sealed, delivered? I don't have the bandwidth anymore to think about this. I don't pay attention to the standings. I don't really care about my job. I'm just done. I'm too busy. I've got kids. I've got a mortgage. I can't devote 5 more seconds to this. So I'm not going to watch 2.5 months more of professional hockey. I just can't do it. You're gone. Like, if you actually make that vote and pretend to have cared about the last 10 weeks of hockey, you're gone. I just don't see how you should get to keep your vote. What is the argument? Win the division. Okay, didn't. Beat the Sabres head-to-head. Well, didn't. Have the lesser team. Didn't. Anything. What else is there to say? Sal Capaccio coming up at 4. Thanks for your calls. More coming up. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Back tomorrow. This is WGR. What's up? I'll try to get a couple in here before we break again, and then Sal joins us after the update. Eric is next. Hi, Eric.
Hey, I was just wondering, what are your thoughts? I don't know if I necessarily agree with this, but do you think maybe the voters were thinking that it was more due to the GM change rather than the coach?
Well, that's interesting because it's a subtraction, right? I mean, that's something where you could
they seemed to start the same at the beginning of the year. They looked identical. Once they changed the GM, then the Sabres took off. So maybe in their heads they're thinking it was the GM. Again, I don't agree with it really, but I don't know, maybe.
Thanks, Eric. It's interesting. I think the best I could do from here with Bulldog, talking to how many different people over the last 5 months about the Sabres, 20, national analysts and such. E.J. Radick is the one who always stands out to me. And his explanation, and he's not alone in this, but I always sort of liked how he put it. NHL Network, he said they got to a point where they sat down and got serious with each other, players and coaches, and realized they needed to put in more work. If you're, not you, Eric, if your argument for the Sabres' incredible season is simply that they fired the GM, well, I mean, if that were so obvious, every team would do that and just go right to the top. But does that say anything negative about your coach's performance? How could it? How is there not a coaching element to that? Listen, everybody, this is your lives. This is our lives. This is your career. You gotta dig deep. Whenever in sports has that disqualified a coach from consideration for a good performance? It's what it looks like. They make movies out of it. That's what a good coaching job is in movies. A downtrodden team with some particular adversity or hardship that, I don't know, nobody really, their clothes don't fit, they're late, they don't take showers, like just whatever it is, this ragtag group of players shows up and the coach is like, okay, we're going to do this. You're going to play over there. You're going to come in early, whatever. Like this is every sports movie almost. How would it not pertain to the Sabres on a professional level? It's not the Bad News Bears. But how would that not apply to what happened here? Then you've got the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are like the Yankees in the Bad News Bears movie, without Vic Morrow and everything else that's wrong with them. But they're just always good, and they lose, and the voters are like, "Yeah, you know what? You're my guy." How embarrassing! Often, especially at my advanced age, I go an hour like this, no Bulldog, and I'm running hot. And I get to like right now, and I'm exhausted. Right now, I feel like I'm still trending up. It's just, how embarrassing is this vote? How does anybody get there on Cooper? Other than maybe they're just hoping no one looks. And does he buy you something if you vote for him? I'm not sure I'll make it till 7 at this pace. But I am just completely flummoxed by this outcome, and yes, I lost a bet. I just want to make sure you heard me say it. Sal Capaccio next. Mike Schopp, WGR. Well, there's a part of this where, I don't know if it's listeners or your boss, where they want you to be mad at everything, just be mad all the time. And I think when I was 20 years younger, I know that was sort of more my speed. And now I just never want to be mad because it's all just dumb. It's all just sports, like whatever. But I don't know. Are we about to be friends? Like, how did Lindy lose? I'm waiting. Like, how did he lose? Coach of the year, I know. We're about to be friends because he's the Sabres coach. And this is maybe like the first time you've ever heard me sort of like not poke at why Buffalo shouldn't have won something. You know, a lot of you want me to, maybe not me, but get mad at announcers who aren't more friendly toward the Bills and Sabres, which I think is just like ridiculous. I don't know. I'm spinning my wheels here. Like, I don't know how he lost. Coach of the year in sports is pretty much a junk award. It should be better. It even maybe, can you show me this? I don't think so. It even maybe should be more like this. Like there's sort of a, let's really try this time for the first time in the history of Coach of the Year. Let's really actually figure out if it's possible to do so, what the best coaching job was. How do you do that, though? Hockey, I mean, every sport. Look up Coach of the Year in hockey. It's hilarious. Like, it's just, who's this guy? Who was that? Wow, what happened? Last year, the winner of Coach of the Year was Washington's coach. And, I don't know, couldn't get them to the playoffs. I mean, just, it's usually kind of a joke award. But, yes, I bet on it. I want to make sure I say that because somebody's going to remind me. I hadn't spent the money yet. I don't get it. I don't understand how Cooper wins. I don't understand it at all. Give me one box that he checked that Lindy Ruff did not check.
Game one of the NBA Finals tonight between the Knicks and Spurs. Game tonight is in San Antonio with tip-off at 8:30. And good injury news for the Knicks. Center Mitchell Robinson is expected to be available tonight following right hand surgery. That is according to ESPN reporter Shams Charania. The Spurs, they are looking for their first title since 2014. It would be their 6th overall, while for the Knicks, they are looking for their 3rd overall, but first since 1973. Then over to the NHL, more awards are getting announced, and today it was the Jack Adams, and it goes to Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper after finishing 2nd in the Atlantic to Buffalo and taking home the silver medal at the Olympics. Over to the NFL, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons did speak with the media today. He said he still has about 4 months left of rehab after suffering a torn ACL late last season. Parsons is expected to start the season on PUP, and based on the timeline, his return to the field looks to be around October. Bears quarterback Caleb Williams is this year's Madden cover athlete, and 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has been issued an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor tied to speeding. We'll get more around the league when Sal Capaccio joins the show next. Then in baseball, Big win this afternoon for the Bisons. They take down Worcester 12-0. Then the Majors Mets at Seattle. That game is currently tied 1-1 in the first. The Yankees have the Guardians in town at 7:05. And then the Jays, they are down in Atlanta versus the Braves at 7:15. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I just, for my own amusement, decided how I would have voted for a Coach of the Year award in the Atlantic Division alone, and I would have voted John Cooper 5th. Just in the Atlantic Division. Above Toronto, Berube, you can't vote for that guy this year. I mean, that's not a great coaching job. That's not elite. Paul Maurice, come on, you lost the team. And then Detroit, close. Travis Green, Marco Sturm, St. Louis, rough. Cooper had the 5th best year as a coach in the Atlantic Division. Won the league award. That's really well done. I'm going to need some football questions, right? Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Do you have any questions for me, Sal?
I just know I'm loving this today. I was tuned in right when you started the show. I think you've been great today. You've really been on this. And I just love where you're coming from. And I'm feeling it, man. It's terrible. What are we doing? I liked how you phrased it, and I'll say this to people then, and I tweeted this out too to kind of get people to listen to what you were saying, which is, like, give me the reason. Like, I'm genuinely interested. I want to know. I want someone on the record who made this vote to say, well, here's what he did better. What did he do better? Or what did Lindy not do that John Cooper did? I mean, and if it's not, it doesn't have to be about Lindy. Of course, we think Lindy deserved it. But if you're going to vote for Cooper, like, tell me why him and not Marco Sturm or not, and the name of the Penguins coach escapes me right
Muse,
now.
Muse.
Tammy Hughes did a great job. He deserved to be maybe above John Cooper this year. Why not Bednar? I mean, we know what happened in the playoffs, but it is not a playoff award. They had a historical season this year.
You know, the Penguins, he was a finalist, and the Penguins coach argument was interesting. This came at a point where I was like invested in Ruff as a better and just like, come on. But whether this is fair or not, and this is another point for Ruff, Sal, is Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. Explain to me Coach of the Year. And, like, they had not been in the playoffs, but McKinnon with the Avs, I don't know. Like, doesn't that usually – I mean, you and I are like-minded in this sort of way. How would you vote for these things? Isn't that usually something that would come to mind as well, what kind of roster? This can be slippery because we don't really know always how good all the players are, and we can have our own biases, but who's going to tell you or me that the Sabres actually had, all these great players, and Ruff, who was their coach last year, by the way, somehow just sort of cracked the code, and it's just there's no one on this team that's ever been close to an MVP award or a Vezina. And usually that kind of thing can not quite disqualify a coach, but it can make it harder for that coach to win.
Yeah, I generally probably fall in the category of, well, that's just too kind of lame and not what it should be about. But I generally think it should go to, or I think in terms of the coach that did the most with the least or the most with the most challenges. And if the one argument I did see for Cooper that people kept bringing up this year was how many injuries they had. And they had a lot of guys that were out, and you were talking about man games earlier. And then when Hedman left, and he was gone for a while. And I don't know. I mean, the Sabres had injuries. Josh Norris is a big part of their team. He was in and out of the lineup. Obviously, Kulik. They certainly don't have Vasilevsky in goal. So, yeah, I am generally that guy, though. You're right. That thinks of who does the most with the least. So it's not fair, but I probably disqualify too much on my own mind guys who did a really good job with really good teams. Because it is hard sometimes to do that when you have a lot of expectation. Like some people, I don't know if I totally lean into this, but I understand when people say like, well, it's hard to coach Michael Jordan and, make sure that you get the most out of him when he's Michael Jordan running the team. I totally get that point. You know what I mean? But you do have him on your team, so it makes it easier to win games.
Yeah, let's hear that argument from one of these voters today. That,
Right.
Well, it's not as easy. It's not what it's cracked up to be to have Kucherov on your team. Oh, yeah? Go on.
Right.
I mean, it's not always fair or perfect. Who's the only Bills coach ever to win AP Coach of the Year? Chuck Knox in 1980. How did he do it? He's Chuck Knox. A, B, they might have improved by 6 wins. They weren't supposed to be good, and they were good, and guess what? McDermott might have had, I don't know who won the year he took the Bills to the playoffs to break the drought. He might have had a look at it if they were just like a little bit better.
I was just thinking that, and I don't remember that. I don't remember. Was it Shanahan or – because Shanahan and McVay. Was it McVay? They all got hired the same year.
I would have to look. 17, I got it right here. McVay.
Yeah.
Sean McVay in 17. McDermott did not get any votes, I think. Maybe he did. But it was not, he was not, much of a contender. Mike Zimmer was second. Doug Marrone. Let me just try to go a little bit deeper on this, not in terms of the NHL, Sal, but a good coaching job, right? Here's Joe Brady.
Yeah.
I don't know if Brady would have any shot at it. The Bills have been in the playoffs 6 or 7 years in a row. So he's got a team that's expected to be good. Might be tough for him. That's also the Tampa Bay Lightning. What will you be – I'm trying to figure out this question as I speak. What will you be kind of looking for that are good signs for Brady? I think a lot of times when players talk, it's only ever bad if they say something that would be construed as controversial or that's not exceedingly positive. What do you kind of think – how do you think about Brady and this task before him?
I think about making sure that like during games, it's not chaos. It's organized.
Yep.
They know exactly what they're doing. And, all coaches are going to be criticized or have moments of, time, game clock, management, things like that. And I think a lot of times we as fans, media, we go way overboard on that because there's lots of good explanations why they do things, but people don't see them that way. But I do think that, the operation itself, how it's running from start to finish for the game, penalties, just little things that, coaches can be a little bit more on top of. And you can't always, I always say, like, players know where to line up. If they get called off sides, that's on them. That's not on the coach for not teaching it. I get it. But, those kinds of things, the discipline stuff, the operation stuff, not having chaos, those are things that I'm going to be looking for. I think that Joe Brady will have, a better opportunity to win Coach of the Year than Sean McDermott has had, because McDermott, what's hurt him is having Josh Allen and having success every year. They have the same year every year. They win 12, 13 games. They win the division. Yeah, you're supposed to, right? Kind of like John Cooper was supposed to, but actually didn't. But that's right. That's why Sean McDermott, that's kind of what hurts him. I think Brady will get more of the, hey, he's a first-year head coach, and look how Josh Allen and company responded to this guy after not winning the division. Like, I should think he'll get a little bit more love in that regard, whether that's fair or unfair. But I'll be looking for more of the organization, the operation, how the team kind of responds in some of those moments down the stretch to say that, yeah, I think that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing here.
We talked about Pete Carmichael a little bit yesterday. He did some talking, and I asked you about what, trying to just know this in a general sense, what kind of relevance he has, what kind of importance he has in the power structure. What do you know about Allen's opinion of Carmichael, if you know of any? Like, is this going to be something where Allen gives you the platitudes? Does he have a background with him? Or is it just more that he's Brady's guy and, Allen will have to make it work?
Haven't really talked with Josh about Pete Carmichael from my memory sense yet. Maybe a while ago we have, but there was a question asked to Carmichael about Josh and Bo Hardigree, who is the new quarterbacks coach. And Carmichael said that I kind of like this answer. What are you supposed to say? You're the coordinator. You're talking about the position coach and the quarterback. of course, you're going to say, yeah, it's a good relationship and they're getting along and all that. That's fine. But how they both kind of listen to each other. And Bo will, tell Josh some things and Josh will take it in, and Josh will tell Bo some things and he'll take it in. So my thought here is it's the same with Carmichael, which is when you have a player like Josh Allen, you have to give him ownership, right? It's not just these people aren't Josh Allen, but they also have a certain level of respect that comes with them and being in the game, and especially a guy like Pete Carmichael Jr., who's been here in the NFL for 26 years, and he's been with Drew Brees, and he's coached under with Sean Payton and Alvin Kamara and LaDainian Tomlinson and all these stars that he's had. So I would think, in Josh Allen, he would have a pretty healthy respect for that, and Josh would at least listen and understand and bounce some ideas off him and take into what he has to say about it. So, yeah, I think that's got to go with it hand in hand. Sorry about the siren outside of me here, if you can hear that. Yep. But I think that would have to go kind of hand in hand with the two. Being a good coach, I think, especially these days, Mike, and, I don't mean to say like, oh, my God, these kids this generation. It's not what I'm saying, but I do think we're in a different time where I think a good coach has to be a good listener. And it's not that they always haven't had to, but it used to be more of the, and I think this is why Bill Belichick really didn't survive at the end. Bill Belichick was very old school. Do what I say, how I do it. This is what it is. I'm the coach. Well, there's so much more information and available technology and ways to communicate with players. I think players have found so much of their voice that as you climb up the levels now, I think you need to listen to the players. And I think players respect if you listen to them. And that's a very big part of coaching now.
There really is no end to that topic that where it ceases to be interesting. I mean,
right.
You've never coached professionals, neither have I. We've both coached kids along the way, and there's always a balance, right, Sal? There's always when I was coaching a long time ago, I had an assistant who was much older than me. And, usually when you're coaching kids, there are parenting aspects to it, right?
Yep.
Like it's somebody's father or somebody's brother. Like I was young when I was doing it. But my problem was that I was the top guy, but the guy who was older than me, I really couldn't tell him no. Like that was one. I had no problem telling the girls no, but I did not want to tell the one dad no. And this is just
was it because of you or because of him?
Because it was up to me to do that, and I didn't.
Right.
And
but I mean, like, was he the kind of guy that would take no if you did say it?
I guess I don't know. I wouldn't blame him for this. I wouldn't blame him for any of this. But
I got you.
Any coach, any manager has to find that balance. And you're coaching millionaires, like you're saying, you better be willing to listen to them.
Yeah.
It's not like they get their way every time. They need to respect you too. They need to respect that you are the final word on things. So for a guy like Brady, who's so young for it, that's got to be pretty challenging.
Listen, I agree with you, and I will tell you there's another aspect to this too, which is it's a fascinating topic, really, where Joe Brady never played in the NFL. Joe Brady's not going to stand up there and be fake about it and pretend like he played in the NFL. He has some, I think college football experience, right? Very little bit of that, whatever. But I think he's very real about who he is, and his players respect that from him, his knowledge about the game. He's not trying to be someone he's not. Whereas I heard stories about Doug Marrone, and how Doug Marrone played, I think, during the strike year, maybe, played in the NFL. I don't even think he played beyond that. And, he tried to make it sound to his players like he was some 5-6 year veteran who went through, all these things that he didn't. And I respect the fact that, he played at Syracuse, he played in the NFL. But I will tell you, there were players that I know on those teams that just kind of thought that was a bunch of BS and fake and, had no respect for him for that.
That was kind of Greg Williams, too, wasn't it? I mean, that's before you were up here, but Williams, I think, had that kind of reputation. Williams took on, even though they had started losing, a Bills team that had a lot of proud veterans on it that had been on good teams. And, he was kind of the type to tell them how it's going to work, and a lot of those guys rolled their eyes at him, I think. So, tough place to be for a coach.
Mike, can I add this too? I think that it is a very overlooked aspect of being of assistant coaches and how good assistant coaches are, what makes them good assistant coaches. Yes, you can look at numbers, right? Like, man, look at James Cook. He must have Kelly Skipper did a great job, which, yes, Kelly Skipper is the running backs coach for the Buffalo Bills. that's true because James Cook was the leading rusher last year. He should deserve something for being a part of that. But you know what makes Kelly Skipper to me, after like watching him, using him as an example, he's been with the Bills for quite a while now. You know what makes Kelly Skipper a really good assistant coach? Because he's a really good support. Like, he doesn't try to be the head coach. And every interaction I've ever had with him, he's all about doing what he can to help support the coordinator, help support the head coach. He's not trying to one-up them. That's hard to find in this league sometimes. Coaching in the NFL, I think probably in most professional sports, I said this to Sean McDermott once. I said, Sean, there was a point in my life where I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to pursue coaching. I wanted to go to maybe be a college football coach, and who knows where it took me. And then I realized I couldn't do what you do. And Sean McDermott looked at me and said, why? What do you mean? And my exact words were, because you work at a Game of Thrones business. I could never live like that.
You mean ruthless in that way or a different way?
Meaning you're doing whatever you can to get ahead of the person that's ahead of you. And you're not really there to support that person. You're there to one-up them and get ahead of them.
Yeah.
And you're always looking for that next step instead of doing your best at your job that you're hired to do.
Right. By the way, Sal, you mentioned Bo Hardegree, the Bills quarterbacks coach, earlier.
I believe that's how you say his name, yes.
Yeah. He's been a lot of places. I'm trying to find, and maybe you know it, the connection, if there were to be one. I think maybe it's John Fox. He was with Fox in Denver and then also Chicago. Because I don't really see any, LSU, but I'm not sure Brady was at LSU 15 years ago. He was still a young kid. So do you know of any sort of particular connection that they had with him? He's been something like 6 teams in 8 years.
Well, no, but where was Coach? Is there a connection between him and Ed Orgeron at LSU?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know college that
because
well.
If there is, Coach O is like this big kind of web connector to a lot of these guys right now in the Bills. Meaning like Joe Brady and Pete Carmichael Jr. There's a lot of that. Coach O is like at Orgeron at LSU. He's a guy that is kind of right there that has been the connector to some of these guys through that program and now coaching in the NFL.
Do we like that?
I don't know. I think, again, you could go back and look at his record or whatever. I think the things that I've heard about him are really good from a relationship human being standpoint. You know what I mean?
All right.
And I think that's kind of why these guys kind of have still to this day connected with him.
Well, I certainly don't want to assume anything of negative about this Hardegree, but if you look at the teams where he's been a quarterback's coach and an offensive assistant working backwards, Tennessee, Raiders, New England post Brady, Jets, Miami, Chicago, Denver, none of that's good. These are not teams that, lit it up at all going back more than a decade. But, whatever. Josh Allen's going to be Josh Allen, and that doesn't mean this guy can't. What was Brian Daboll? When the Bills brought in Daboll,
right?
That was my problem. He was offensive coordinator, not even a position coach. And well, okay, but I'd like to be able to look at one team where he was an important decision maker that was good. And you couldn't do it. The best you could do was background coach on Brady's Patriots, and he's got that. But there would have been that's Adam Gase with Manning in Denver, just that doesn't have to tell you anything.
That's you know what that is, Mike? That's the whole, Belichick pixie dust. That's McVay pixie dust, right? If you're around them, people think that you can be them. And Brian Daboll was with Belichick, and then he went with Saban and won a national championship. Come on. You're with Belichick and Saban as an assistant, and you have success. Why would you not? That, to me, I understand why an organization would want to dip into that. The knowledge that those people have that have learned. But, man, again, it goes back to you got to be your own person and be real. You can't try to be someone else. Don't try to be fake about it. Be who you are. Coach authentically. And I think that players see when people don't do that.
Sal, one player that you've brought up a few times here in the offseason that's important not only to the Bills' season eventually, but just kind of to give us a roadmap on what they might want to do with their roster is Michael Hoyt. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, did you talk to him?
Yes. So
where is he at?
So he's still working with trainers on the side. He's not working with the team, in practice and drills and things like that. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I think it was, whatever the first day we were out there for OTAs, he was doing like explosions with the medicine ball, and he was sprinting and using the resistance bands. And then I've still seen all of that and doing some, ladder drills. So, and he's working hard. And then after practice, several of us spoke with him, and he said his goal is to be ready for camp. But it honestly, like, the real timeline is to make sure he's ready for week 1. But he wants to be ready for camp. Now, I'll say, Mike, this year camp is a lot later than normal because the NFL calendar is normal. The Bills' first practice hasn't been out there yet, but it's simple math if you want to do it according to the CBA. The Bills' first practice will be on July 29th. That's late this year. So you think about the time they'll have between the time they break mandatory minicamp next week on June 11th to July 29th. Like,
7 weeks.
That's what, a good 6 weeks, healthy 6 weeks. And what can he do between now and then? That's going to be really interesting to see if he's able to be on the field day one. If he's not, training camp isn't one day. His goal is to be on the field at camp. His goal is to be ready for camp, he said, but maybe at some point they do that. And if not, then you get into the roster mechanics of PUP versus IR and all those kinds of things that you can do that we can talk about. But, Mike, I think that if you ask me right now, Sal, give me a projected 53-man roster for the Bills against the Houston Texans on September 13th, I think I'm including Michael Hoyt on the active 53-man roster.
Okay. They are, right? They're having a joint practice this year with somebody?
Yep, they're going to Cleveland. That'll be at the preseason week 2. So that'll be around. We don't know the full schedule. I think, what's that Saturday? The 22nd, I believe, is that Saturday. So the 8th is a Saturday, 15th. Yeah, 22nd is a Saturday. They play Cleveland. We know that. So my guess is the joint practice will be on the 20th, which is the Thursday. So that'll be that second week of the preseason.
They'll have
in Cleveland, by the way.
They'll have the Friday off or walk through whatever and then play Saturday.
Yep.
Do you blame me for Schlittler? Did I jinx him last night?
I didn't think about blaming you necessarily, but
Good.
I kind of felt like I'm like, man, just kind of hype this guy up and look what happened tonight. Like, nah, I don't blame it. Like, I don't believe in the jinx part of it.
Good.
But I feel like, man, like if people were listening, they were like, what are you guys talking about? This guy being so good. He's getting lit up tonight.
Maybe it got in his head, not that anybody else said anything, but like, oh, wow, I'm the Cy Young favorite. Look at me.
Yeah.
Cleveland at home, and then they roughed him up pretty good.
Ramirez is a one-man wrecking crew at Yankee Stadium. He's unbelievable there.
Ramirez is so good. Once in a while it crosses my mind that we should just make the entire show someday out of Jose Ramirez. That guy. And he's not even hitting 230 this year, but New York, he's a Hall of Famer, I think, Ramirez.
Did I hear right? I didn't go through their lineup to check to make sure. Did I hear right last night on the broadcast? I did. I think Paul O'Neill said every hitter in the Cleveland lineup was either a lefty or a switch hitter to face Schlittler.
That might be right. Leadoff guy, Bazana, that might be right.
Yeah.
I was in and out of it with ADP chasing, but that might be right. They know what they're doing.
That's wild. I know, right? Yeah.
There's your coach of the year, manager of the year. He's won the last 2, I think, the vote for Cleveland. So back to that, full circle. Thank you, Sal. We'll talk again soon.
You got it, buddy. Thanks.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. His appearance is brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor, outletliquor.com. What's your outlet? 100% out of 100%, I'm going to Cleveland Yankees over the hockey. I'm just telling you. I had my podcast last night, did not even think about the final. And I don't apologize for that. I don't care at all who wins. I think if I had some sort of more sentimental tie somehow to one team, if it's the Leafs or if it's any Canadian team maybe, or if it's somebody, tell me. But these are like my 2 least favorite hockey teams. And just, why should I have to watch it? They're going to tell me what happened, which, that happened. John Cooper wins Coach of the Year. Can anybody defend that? 803-0550. Matt Waldman still to come today. Bulldog is off. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
dancing so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time. Oh, sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of
NBA Finals tonight between the Knicks and Spurs. The game is in San Antonio with tip-off at 8:30. And good injury news for the Knicks. Center Mitchell Robinson expected to be available tonight following right hand surgery. That according to ESPN reporter Shams Charania. Spurs are looking for their first title since 2014. They're 6th overall. While the Knicks, they are looking for their 3rd overall, but first since 1973. Over in the NHL, more award news, and today it was the Jack Adams, which does go to Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper, following finishing 2nd in the Atlantic to Buffalo and taking home the silver medal at the Olympics. In the NFL, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons spoke with the media today, said he's still got about 4 months left in his rehab after suffering a torn ACL, as the Packers do have a strict 9-month no football recovery policy for players who have had multiple torn ACLs. Parsons likely will start the season on PUP, with his return looking closer to October. And 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has been issued an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor tied to speeding. We do have some early afternoon baseball today. The Bisons are already wrapped up. Big win for them over Worcester, 12-0. While the Majors Mets at Seattle, that game is tied 1-1 in the 3rd. The Yankees have the Commanders in town at 7:05, and the Jays, they are down in Atlanta versus the Braves at 7:15. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I love the coaches, the organization, my teammates, everybody a part of it, the staff, the fans. I love the whole vibe of LA. It was upsetting. I was upset for, a good little bit of time. But when you're an athlete, you understand the nature of business. Everybody does what they think is best for their business, and, that's the situation that I'm in. I'm happy to be a part of the Browns. I'm happy that they believed in me and they were able to make that trade and bring me here, be with my teammates, be with everybody here. And I truly do believe in everybody in the locker room. But it was upsetting at first. But you got 2 choices that you can either work or you can give up, and I ain't never been a quitter.
Jared Verse. Okay. At least he was willing to say that he liked life in L.A. That's, good for him. Oh, no, I didn't want to be there. All my focus is on Cleveland, Ohio. Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. This is where I want to be. He said it all. Jared Verse, newest Cleveland Brown. Okay, 803-0550 for your calls. Lindy Ruff gets the shaft. Here's Dell with us. Hi, Dell.
Oh, I've been listening and forgot I called in. Thanks, Mike. Can I just talk about baseball for a second, just because you segued to that at the end with Sal? The Bison's got some good pitching coming up. I heard this morning that Scherzer's going to be getting a game. Shane Bieber's going to be getting a game. Dylan Cease could be getting a game. So I think some good baseball coming up with the Bisons, and Kirk could be back soon, and Barger as well. So I just wanted to get that out there. Disappointing news with not getting the Jack Adams for Lindy. And not that I would say John Cooper was not worthy enough to be a candidate. I really think he had a season this year that deserved the candidacy. But when you do a side-by-side with Lindy and John, it should have been Lindy Ruff as a shoe-in. The only reason I could give, which is what you're looking for, a reason why would these people vote for John, is the only answer I can think of is pity. And they're pitying, like you mentioned earlier, how some would say he's due. Also with the fact that they didn't win the gold medal. And I think they voted on emotion and not on subjectivity. And that's the way I kind of feel about it. And the last thing I was just going to say is Hamilton Tiger Cats open the season tomorrow at home, tomorrow night. So I'll listen. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, you're trying to figure out a reason why a professional hockey broadcaster would have voted for Cooper, and it's because they felt bad for him. What am I supposed to do with that? Not blaming you for the take. I don't know the answer. Just like, what's a good answer? What's a good defense? I mean, people are trying, and if I had a vote and I had used it on Cooper, I would probably want to try too, or else just hide in the corner. But what would it be? Oh, well, they had these injuries, or, I mean, how long is even the list? I don't know. I am a Sabres fan, and I'm a Lindy Ruff fan. And I had a bet on Lindy Ruff. So that's all out there. Not pretending that none of that is true. I don't even have to tell you. Of course you know that some of those things, you knew at least some of those things were true. But I am used to, from however many years, decades as a sports fan, Coach of the Year is not always the greatest, smartest choice in sports. And that's in the defense of people who vote for this award. It's partly because it's really not easy to do that. You can't really know how much coaching has had to do with a team season. I mean, I grew up as a baseball fan thinking that managers were important. And now I kind of think that they're mostly not. And that's, through data and smart people who have analyzed it. Like, just how do you really figure out how important a coach is? I would also say, as I try to figure this out, I doubt that the broadcasters who voted this way were really, at least mostly, here on this. But I think that it's possible that it happened around Ruff, that a lot of what happened to the Sabres this year happened around him. But he still had to captain it. He still had to lead it. He still had to do all the press conferences. He still had to draw the lineup and start the goalies. He still had to run the team. And even if a lot of the, maybe, so to speak, swing thoughts that happened with the Sabres happened around him, which I don't even know to be true, Coach of the Year is pretty much coaching staff of the year in hockey, is it not? Does anybody really go as far as to try to parse a head coach's responsibility for a team's season versus his assistants? Nobody does that. Nobody even knows how to do that. The Sabres did not have an A1 center. They have a B1 center, right? They have Thompson. Whatever Thompson is, he's good. He's not Hart Trophy good, right? He's not Kucherov. He's not McKinnon. He's not one of those guys. But he's important. So you've got him. You have Dahlin, who got third for the Norris Trophy. That's great. No Sabre before has ever come close to the Norris Trophy. That's progress for the Sabres in this particular area. He didn't come close to winning in the end. Who was responsible for this? Tampa was so good because their coach was so good. It should make what the Sabres did even more amazing, that they were able to win the division despite John Cooper and despite Kucherov and despite Vasilevsky. Somehow they were able to do that. I don't get it. I don't understand. I am used to Coach of the Year in sports going to the coach, any sport. It goes to the coach whose team overachieved the most. And some of those times it's going to feel pretty cheap. It's going to look like an eye roll. How do you know what this team was really going to be? I've made this case forever. Some coach from Calgary or someplace wins the Jack Adams. Well, how do we know that they were supposed to be good or bad, or who do we think we are in knowing that? But you have a team here that has missed the playoffs 14 years in a row. I mean, does that really need to be examined that thoroughly? It's just, they had smashed the record for most consecutive seasons without a playoff team. That should tell you something. That's a pretty good starting point for any analysis of whether or not they were secretly good and just had to be, a coach had to sort of shake up the balls and then suddenly they were good. It's so weird to me that this happened. I can't say I'm like, well, I guess I could say that I'm disappointed for Ruff. I don't know how badly he wanted it. He's won this award. He's probably pretty secure in his own skin at this point. Maybe he cared a lot about it. Maybe he didn't. But I just don't understand how the vote went this way. When you have a favorite that finishes second versus a 14-year playoff drought team that not only finished above you, but had to beat you consistently on the way to doing it, well, what's left to talk about? What else is there? Are we not? I mean, do we want to ignore the standings? Do we want to ignore head-to-head? Do we want to ignore the past? What do we not want to ignore? What is it? I don't get it. I mean, I've said that for 2 hours. The first 20 minutes of which were just me talking to the wall. But I just really do not understand how this happened. So, John Cooper wins the Jack Adams. Bulldog loses, I lose, Sam loses. Yes, that's true. I'm not pretending that there wasn't action on this. I loved the bet. I think it was Sam's idea, wasn't it? Were you listening the day that Sam brought up? I think maybe Chris and I were already talking about it for a minute, but you can't make a awards bet in New York State. So this happened the other day on something else. Like, Sam is my first call. If we wanted to bet something like this, we would go to Sam, and he's, very accommodating, and he did place this bet for us. But I can remember him being on the show one Friday, like, guys, what about this idea? The Sabres are on the come, and who knows if they can't. What if they make the playoffs and break the drought? Is that enough? And as we got closer, as we got to post-Olympics, it looked like to me they were going to have to win the division for Ruff to win it. And to win the division, they probably were going to need to beat the Lightning. And they played them 3 times after the Olympics. They won all 3. You think you know something. One person votes on these awards, you never know what you're going to get. This is not that. This is a collection of people in broadcasting who apparently, I'm sure they will claim to following the NHL. I don't know. I don't understand. Cooper has been the Lightning coach for 15 years. He goes back almost to the Sabres' last playoff team before this year. 2013, so a couple of years after that. So it's 14 years with them. Won 2 cups, been to the conference finals 2 other times. Why should that matter? Is he a good interview? He seems like he's probably a good interview. This is broadcasters who vote. I can't believe it. What can I say? I cannot think of the caller saying, well, maybe they felt bad for him. Man Games lost. He's from Canada. So is Lindy. The Lightning are not from Canada. Cooper was the coach of team. I know that much. Cooper was the coach of Team Canada, and we had a caller before like, yeah, that's just was the big storyline and everything, and the Olympic year, and they got beat, and we still had 2 months to vote, and it still went this way. I don't know. I think it's pretty shocking. We'll do some more football here, top of the hour, with Matt Waldman, footballguys.com, always one of my favorite guests. Bulldog back tomorrow. I'm Mike Schopp. Lines are open for you. This is WGR. Who vote on this decided that, it wasn't turnover luck. It wasn't shooting percentage. It wasn't ref calls. It had to be that the coach did this culture. It had to be this incredible coaching job. And then the guy's fired in 2 years. I mean, these are the people who are tasked with this. I like to see myself as one of them to a point where I care about who did a good job and not. I think it's ridiculous sometimes how these votes fall. And if I were ever in one of these rooms, and I've been in a couple and I get, shouted down and kicked out. I've been in a couple of these because people just don't want to hear it. It's basically you're kind of calling them out. I don't know. This to me does not make sense. Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Sal Capaccio, Matt Waldman ahead. Before the Jack Adams news, I was planning on talking about John Tortorella and the ruthlessness of that move by Vegas that, what are you going to say? Like, it's not working? We don't know if Bruce Cassidy would have led Vegas to this point, but we will never know that. And when you fire a coach of a team with a middling record with 8 games left in the season, they win 7 of those 8 games and then pretty much prance to the finals and take the lead against a team that isn't losing to anybody. Well, but it's kind of it's an interesting one because I just don't think I could ever have done it or supported it. Imagine if Lindy Ruff had been fired with 8 games left. I mean, the presumptive Jack Adams winner. just like that wasn't even on the table. Maybe it's different because they've won a lot, and that's a different, I think, kind of organization in a certain way. Not in a good way, but they win. So who am I to talk? But we're not talking about that, at least yet. 803-0550 for your calls. CJ is next. Hi, CJ.
Hey, Mike. Good afternoon. I'm glad you're fired up. You're fired up about this, just like all Sabres fans are, because just to make a quick parallel, Dahlin was top 3 in the voting for Norris, right? And then you have a guy like John Butchergross, who's in the media, that he's not even in his top 5, and that's only one person. But there's no planet in the solar system where Dahlin was not a top 3 defenseman this year. And then you have Lindy, where he loses to Jack Adams. Unfortunately, I think he was a product of being punished for being the coach of the team that was irrelevant for the last 14 years, and he has nothing to do with that. But, it's a popularity clown show, and there's no reason why Lindy shouldn't have won the Jack Adams with what he did with this team, with having the lack of star power with basically just Dahlin and Tage, and that's pretty much it. But it's, this is another, thing we can throw on the burn pile that we hate about the NHL, because it's a popularity clown show that they didn't want to have Lindy win it this year, unfortunately. So
I don't know if I would say all that. I think there are definitely reasonable, I don't know, I don't listen to John Butchergross, but I think there are reasonable arguments that Dahlin was not top 3. I don't think he was ever likely to win. Quinn Hughes did not make the finals of that award. So I wouldn't hold that against anybody as like, well, they are obviously biased. I just, the point you made about what worked against Ruff was the Sabres not being good for so long is exactly how people win this award in sports. The Sabres were not an expansion team. It was not a secret that they were going to play 82 NHL games this year. This is exactly how it happens. He is top 5 all time in wins. There's no explanation I can understand. Keep trying. I appreciate the effort. The Sabres being bad before is not how he didn't win. It's how you would win. If the Sabres had finished 3rd in the Atlantic Division, 106 points. Tampa Bay, 109 points. Flip it. Montreal, the same, 106 points. Well, Lindy Ruff, let's think about this. It's a 14-year playoff drought. Maybe something, because do they have first-team all-stars? No. Do they have a .930 save percentage goalie? No. In fact, this guy had to rotate goalies all year, which the easy button coaches never have to do. John Cooper in his career has never had to think about who his goalie was going to be in any important game. This team rotates between, ESPN can't say it, Luukkonen, and then, quote, Alex Lyon. What is coaching in hockey? What is it? Is somebody going to tell us that What are we going to do about Brandon Ayuk? Not you and I, although you fantasy players and I. What are we going to do about Brandon Ayuk? Is he just sort of like not a thing? So he was arrested for going more than 100 miles an hour by the 49ers stadium. He recorded himself doing it, by the way, not just was caught. He recorded himself doing it. Like, there's a guy that just does not care. I don't know. Like, he was supposed to go to Washington, I thought. June 1, we're past that. Does he want to play? San Francisco, which was, of course, a very good team, they would not want to shun their good players. If you can help us, you're under contract for a lot of money. If you can help us, come on over. And they just send him off. They send him away. Ayuk. Doesn't look great. I'm sure, I don't mean this as a criticism, I'm sure there are Bills fans who would take the gamble, whatever that would cost. Would San Francisco just want to give him away at this point? The money's real. But, dude, talking about, who was it? Decision-making. Who was it? Who was the guy? Oh, Rashee Rice. Where he's on probation and he still ends up getting busted on a drug thing and goes to jail. Can you just like sort of take a deep breath and not do that for however long? But some guys, I mean, there's a sickness element. Some guys just cannot help it. And it seems like maybe Ayuk is perhaps in the same boat. Speaking of football, and Matt Waldman is coming up at the top of the hour from Football Guys. We'll talk about prospects and the upcoming season. Lots always to get into here. Still, of course, a few months away from week 1. The Myles Garrett trade yesterday, or was that Monday? Whatever. Did you see that there was a condition on the 3rd-round pick the Browns got? So the Browns got a first, a second, and a third. A first in 27, a second in 28, a third in 29. I like this one. This is good work. The 29 third becomes a first if the Rams trade Garrett back into the AFC North. You know, Rams, can you just do one more little thing for me? I doubt this is really going to be a problem, but I'm hoping you'll be willing to do this. Can you just put a condition on the 29 third-round pick that if you trade him back into the AFC North, that moves up to a first? Do you think you'd have any chance of doing that? And the Rams are probably like, yeah, no, sure, fine. We'll do that. I love conditions in trades. Try a little harder, everyone. Just a little bit harder. If the Rams want to trade Myles Garrett in 3 years, well, they could try to figure out a 3-way trade and then trade him to the Dolphins, and then the Dolphins trade him to the Steelers, and then he's back in the AFC North. But the Rams are kind of sneaky like this, right? They might be able to pull that off. Caleb Williams on the cover of Madden. All right. He's a big story. Kind of amazing to think this would have happened a year ago. I mean, what would we have thought a year ago about this possibility? Because not only did Caleb Williams as a rookie really struggle in a lot of important areas with Ben Johnson, like that was supposed to be sort of the fix. And that's right, isn't it? Wasn't he there by then? I'm not even sure now. But Williams was the first overall pick, and so many expectations, and really just the sacks that he took, and really slow to figure things out. But then last year, maybe that's with Ben, I know Johnson was there last year, it really clicked. So he's on the Madden cover. It's kind of a cool shot, too. We'll talk to Matt Waldman next. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Played a trap system that was actually, they didn't even win it. I defy anybody. Maybe you can do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I defy anybody to make an intelligent argument that isn't just that, well, he had never won it before and his team's been good a long time, which is the lamest. That's just not how it's supposed to work. Give him a ring or something. Give him money. You do not, that's not how sports works. It's not how it's supposed to work. If the Sabres had been a wild card team and the Lightning had won the division, there's an argument for Ruff. There's an argument for Cooper. I don't think what happened allows for an argument for Cooper, yet he won, and it's not just because one person decides. It's a whole team of people that supposedly cover the league. What does it take? Wow. Jay is next. Hi, Jay.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
Just, being from the other side of the border here, I got to be honest with you. Like, the whole lead up to the Olympics just sealed it for Cooper. Like, Team Canada this year was about Cooper, and they started hot, and the narrative came out that he's never won it, and I think you just couldn't fight it. Didn't matter what Lindy did. I think Lindy definitely deserved it. But if you watched, Sportsnet's TSN leading up to the Olympics, and then once you got to the Olympics, it was all about Cooper. And I think that whole thing about never winning it, it didn't matter what anybody else did. They had just decided at that point it was over. It was Cooper's. Didn't matter what Lindy did. I love the Lindy odds, and I was thinking about I should do this too. And then I thought, there's no way. Like, it's a waste, even though it should make sense. Just don't bet it because they're just going to give it to him. And even, like, during the Olympics, it was all about Cooper. And I got to be honest with you, we sucked at the Olympics. McDavid never got going. McKinnon never got going. If it wasn't for Celebrini, it would have been worse.
Yeah.
So I really think the whole narrative from this side of the border up into the Olympics, it was over then, in my opinion.
Well, you might be right. Of course, none of that is defensible. If I had a vote, I don't have a vote. I used to have a vote for the Heisman Trophy. They took it away. And I asked them what happened. I didn't get my ballot. And they said, well, we figured out that you don't cover college football. If that's fair. Like, if I had a vote for Jack Adams and I decided in January that I was all set, I don't need to follow the rest of the NHL season, I should not only get my vote taken away, I should get my job taken away. How does that make any sense? Again, maybe Jay is right. I think some of his instincts are good here. But none of that is any defense for anybody who voted. I'm still waiting for anybody on Twitter, on the phone, anywhere to make the case. Okay, well, this is maybe what happened. That sucks. What actually is the case for the guy whose team was the much bigger favorite and finished second to this one winning? What is that argument? Never has to think about who his goalie is, ever. Got the Hart Trophy finalist up top. What Norris Trophy winner? Hedman? I don't know if you know if that's right, but he's obviously been elite. What is it? What is the actual argument for this vote? Anybody? Randy's next. Hi, Randy.
Hey, Mike, this might be slightly controversial, and I can't believe I'm saying it myself, but when I saw Cooper win the award, I mean, I couldn't help but remind me of Allen winning MVP a couple of years ago. It's like, a lot of people would argue that Lamar Jackson clearly outperformed Allen that season statistically. And, obviously the Sabres outperformed Tampa Bay this year, but you have two guys that have been in the conversation for the both separate awards for a long time. And, it's, I don't want to say sympathy, but it's like this is their best chance to get it, and this is each league's best chance to give them the award. So I kind of think it falls in the same category as Allen winning it. So unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that is an interesting comparison. What we had with Josh Allen was the year before, so this is what, 23 and 24, right? Stafford 1 and 25. 2023.
Game one of the NBA Finals tonight between the Knicks and Spurs. The game is in San Antonio. A tip-off at 8:30. And good injury news for the Knicks. Center Mitchell Robinson is expected to be available tonight following right hand surgery, that is according to ESPN reporter Shams Charania. The Spurs are looking for their first title since 2014, their 6th overall, while the Knicks, their 3rd overall, but first since 1973. In the NHL, we had more awards news today, and today it was the Jack Adams Award, which does go to Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper after finishing second in the Atlantic to Buffalo and taking home the silver medal at the Olympics. In the NFL, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons did speak with the media earlier this afternoon. He said he's still got about 4 months left of his rehab after suffering a torn ACL late last season. The Packers do have a strict 9-month no football recovery policy for players that do have multiple torn ACLs, so Parsons' realistic return looks to be closer to October. And 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has been issued an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor tied to speeding. While in baseball, big win this afternoon for the Bisons. They took down Worcester 12-0. Then in the majors, Mets at Seattle. New York is up 5-1 in that game. In the 4th, the Yankees have the Guardians in town at 7:05, and the Jays, they are down in Atlanta versus the Braves at 7:15. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for West New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Hoping to get Matt Waldman here on the line shortly, scheduled for 5 o'clock. I've been kind of a cliche, I guess, so far today, complaining about that the Buffalo coach didn't win Coach of the Year, Lindy Ruff in this case. I'm a better, losing on Ruff. Ruff did not have to win. You give me one of these ballots, I am taking it very seriously, and I want to think the people who voted for John Cooper did the same. I just don't think it makes any sense. I don't think Ruff had to win. I think this award has been a little bit of a joke over the years where there's so much luck in hockey. You have teams that get the goaltending and get the shooting luck and get to the playoffs, and their coach wins Coach of the Year sometimes. That's really not the Sabres, to the fullest extent. I just think Cooper really had no claim to this award at all. What was it? What was it? Got great players, didn't win the division. What was the hardship? What was the narrative on him? I don't know. Really disappointing. Well, for me and for Sabres fans who were, looking forward to this one. I have been looking forward to talking to Matt Waldman. It's been a long time. So in Mike Dempsey's Dynasty League, and some of you will know Mike from his appearances on the show out of Jacksonville, fantasy analyst, I do the schedule for him. And he is, I mean this is in a good way, a sicko for fantasy football, but he doesn't, the schedule piece, he wants to push a button. And I love that kind of stuff. I love puzzles. So give me this 32 teams, divisions, everything. Give it to me. So I know Mike is grateful for that. And I'm sitting there a couple of days ago like, oh, there it is. The RSP murder. My guy, Matt Waldman. It's been a while. Let's call Matt. He was gracious enough to give us his time. And thank you, Matt, for that.
It's always a pleasure. And yeah, Dempsey is a sicko.
Yes.
Sure.
We in our business use that as a compliment, do we not? That's mostly.
Oh, without a doubt. Great guy, but he's definitely a sicko about this league, and it's fun to watch. He's very competitive, and he's good at what he does.
Well, between you and me, since we're here, Matt, what he does that I can never do is the constant trade offers with and this is 32 teams. He is always flooding your inbox with offers, like every pick. That's when the league started. He was doing this. I'm like, I knew right away, Matt, I'm not going to be able to keep up with this guy.
Oh yeah. That's definitely his bag. And Bob Harris, who's my co-host on my Monday show, who's also Mike's co-host on Sirius. We make fun of him incessantly all the time about this. He's ultra competitive, and he has and he makes the time to do it. And good for him. And it's a good league to do that with because it's filled with a bunch of writers and analysts and people on the air all the time. So he's taking advantage of it.
And everyone else is one of his fans, so that works out well as well. I'd love to be able to refer to your Monday show by name, but I don't think I can with Bob.
No, it's profane. We'll just call it F or F, or feel it or bleep it. Yeah, how about that?
Well, however you want to word your answer to this first question from me about the Bills and the upcoming season, DJ Moore. DJ Moore is, for me in fantasy circles, not really popular. I think we had a few years of he's the victim of bad quarterback play. Then maybe we got bored with him. I don't know. Caleb Williams shows up, and it really didn't pop last year. He had other options. What are your vibes on DJ Moore?
I think DJ Moore is one of those guys that probably got overrated for a time, and then probably the hate for his play in the fantasy industry was overrated for a time because he played with Cam Newton, he played with Justin Fields, he played with two quarterbacks who were in systems that allowed these two guys to be a little bit more loose with their unscripted work, which meant that you're not always going to have as maybe highly structured offense compared to somebody like Ben Johnson. So when you look at his routes in key moments, there were, and I don't want to say key moments as in like clutch moments, though sometimes that happened too, is that you'll just see certain moments off script or with adjustments late in the late in the play where maybe he was going one way, his quarterback was going another, And so he got a rep that he was not as strong of a route runner as people perceived with the ascension of his production. And then he got in the Ben Johnson system, and Ben Johnson's very exacting about what he wants. And I think that there were some plays where I call it the former quarterback fraternity on social media, because we're seeing more and more of them pop up, kind of all came out and said, hey, these were some adjustments late with the coverage where it was really on him. And I think what's happened is that, whenever these things get brought up, they become magnified, and it's like, oh, DJ Moore can't run routes. And I don't think that's the truth. I think that more than anything is that he had to adjust as well, and he made some big plays for the Bears as well during last year. But yeah, maybe his structure, his work off structure, it may not have jived with what Ben Johnson exactly wanted to do. But I think here in Buffalo, I mean, Josh Allen thrives off structure. I think DJ Moore is the type of player that works well with a quarterback who's given a little bit more of that freewheeling freedom. And I think that, while Williams will eventually get a little bit more of that, Caleb Williams will get a little bit more of that in Chicago, it was really incumbent upon Ben Johnson to become very strict, be very exacting early on so that he could develop Williams within his system, and then, maybe be a little bit more loose with the script as Williams proves himself. And he's still probably another year or two away. So I think it's a good fit for Moore. I don't know if we're going to see Moore be a 1,400-yard receiver unless multiple options get hurt. And while he had some strong years in Joe Brady's offense before, if they continue to want to spread the ball around, he can probably be the leading receiver for the Bills, and it's probably likely that's what we're looking at. Will he lead in every category? I don't know. Probably yardage, probably touchdowns, probably targets. Maybe Shakir gets a little bit more. Maybe if Kincaid, they continue to roll with Kincaid, maybe he gets, really has a strong year. But I would say it's probably going to be between Shakir and Moore in terms of the receptions and the yardage, and I bet Moore will edge him out.
It wouldn't be career numbers for DJ Moore, Matt, but if he gave the Bills 100 for 1,010, okay. It's neither Stephon Diggs' peak, but it's good, and it would ease the pain, if you will, for spending the second round pick and the big money on Moore. What about Brady in this? So, as you alluded to, Joe Brady had Moore in Carolina. He knows what he's getting, and that's, I'm sure, intentional. Why he was brought here, a big part of it. Is there something about, if you haven't said it already, is there something about the two of them together and then with Josh Allen that would make you optimistic for the whole thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think overall this should be seen as an optimistic move. More with Brady, more improved more improved while he was at Carolina, because when he came out of school, he was an excellent runner after the catch, kind of a running back after the catch with his contact balance and movement. And he was good on routes that worked inside. And you could see that early in his career that he did a good job with big routes and being able to work the middle of the field and make tough catches. But then asking him to win on the boundary and win contested plays, his positioning was not very strong. He was not very good at that aspect of the game, even though he had the athletic ability to learn how to do it. It was more just the positioning and conceptual skill that is involved with those types of plays that weren't there. And I think he made good improvements while he was in Carolina. And I think that Brady was able to see that and see what he has in Moore, and Moore became a much better perimeter player. So I think overall, you get redundancy in an aspect with Moore, where again with Shakir, with Moore, even with Palmer, with Skylar Bell, you get guys who can really make plays after the catch. They're interchangeable in terms of how you could use them if you want to make them interchangeable and match them up in certain routes or certain ways, inside, outside. Because I think all three of those guys I mentioned, you can have them play flanker, you can have them play outside occasionally. You can certainly have Shakir Obviously he's their main inside guy, but you can do enough with them that you can put some of them inside to match them up in good ways to maybe make the most of them on routes that start inside, work outside, or work up the seams. And so I think that Moore just gives you another problem because all of them run well after the catch. All of them can go up and get the ball if you allow them to be targeted in that way. But I think in this offense, it's so much about finding the open man that they're not trying to do prime Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stuff where it's like 3rd and 17, get me the 17, and I'm going to put the ball only where you can try to catch it. And I think that they were trying to get away from that just a little bit so that you didn't have that kind of early Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson type of scenario where maybe the Lions thought that they were limiting Stafford early to middle of his career because they didn't really supply him with much else. And even if they did, he got so dependent on one player, which, you think of Calvin Johnson, and you go, well, surely, but it can limit your decision-making as a player. And now you look at where Stafford is as the old man of the quarterback fraternity. And that really, that's one of those things where you can see how he has evolved over time. And I think that's what they're trying to do with Allen, is not make him too much of an off-script, just gun-it type of player. And so with those three guys, they give you enough redundancy between their skill sets, with maybe one being a little more physical, one being a little bit faster, but all of them being able to do some similar things that you find the open man, they're going to make you pay.
Mm-hmm. With Matt Waldman, rookie scouting portfolio, footballguys.com, Mike Schopp here, Bulldog is off today. I've thought about this general point you're making about Allen a lot, and Lamar Jackson too, and just how now that Allen's 30 now, I'm not sure if Jackson is, but they're getting to a point where they're turning a corner in their careers, Patrick Mahomes as well. And I think what's happened with Allen in the last couple of years, and this goes along with what they've said, Matt, is sort of not wanting to be as reliant on his running as before. I mean, he's going to get older, and we want to be more careful with that. But the Bills have gotten to points these last 2 years where, thinking of the title of your show with Bob Harris, they get to a point like, all right, well, it's time to go. And then you see Allen really hit it, and the touchdowns are just, he's got 79 rushing touchdowns already before the age of 30. Jackson, I think, and maybe this is in his head too, that I don't want to be just a running quarterback, which you and I both know he isn't, but like maybe there's an element here where in different ways these two guys are trying to sort of grow as players. I mean, I say do what's best, but I think maybe there's a little bit of that with each of them.
Yeah, I mean, they're such a fascinating tandem entering the league because back when they entered the league, I actually did about an hour-long video profiling both side to side and basically saying these are both promising quarterbacks. But the way that people characterized Josh Allen was as if he was this, promising passer who could run, whereas it was with Lamar Jackson, it was, the extreme versions where he's not a quarterback. But the more moderate criticisms were he's a good runner, but can he actually become a pocket passer? Where I kind of showed enough film to say I think it's actually flipped. Lamar Jackson was the best pocket passer of that group, if you ask me, and Josh Allen had moments that were really strong, but he was more of a runner than people wanted to say. And when you look at the way they were developed, Allen was put in a system where, early on, they were like, listen, we're going to play from the gun. We're going to let you take your drops, look at your first or second read. If you don't find it, run. We're okay with you running right now. It's going to be all right. We'll kind of tamp that back as you learn more, and we'll want to see more from you from the pocket. And he did that. And kudos to him because he grew fast and he grew a long ways from where he was having like 5 interception games against Nebraska back when he was at Wyoming. You know, he was reckless back then. And part of that was that he was the main guy on a team that was probably overmatched a lot. So he did a great job of really becoming a student of the game. Whereas I think with Lamar, he was good in the pocket, but they tried to put him on training wheels with the Greg Roman offense and leverage his running early. But if you watched him from the pocket, the way he moves, he's very efficient, moves very incrementally to make plays and as a thrower. And he's not as good as Allen on the boundaries. He's not a power thrower to the boundaries. Like timing routes, he was more of a middle of the field technician, and that's usually a very hard thing to do as well. So what you've seen is with Jackson, he's kind of had to fight a little bit more against pushback about what they think he is, and he's had to kind of prove that over time in terms of whether it's who he's had represent him, who he's negotiated contracts with, asking for an offense that took the training wheels off and not made him a Colin Kaepernick, early Michael Vick type of player, but let him actually throw the ball. And I think both have fared extraordinarily well because they both have shown the willingness to work and grow. But the legs are a big part of their games. I mean, as good as they are as throwers, the fact that they can at any point tilt a play where the defense thinks they've got them painted into a corner, and the defensive coach can do nothing but just kind of tip their hat and say, well done, let's try and get over that and get on to the next play without losing momentum and feeling like that we've tilted emotionally against what just went down.
You know, Matt, speaking of that a little bit, what is your, getting away from, film study for a moment, what is your conclusion about these Bills, like the last 5 years, and how they've lost somewhat similarly in the playoffs, for several years in a row? We have a back and forth all the time here with, the game was on the line, whether it's Arrowhead Stadium or Denver or whatever. I mean, the Bills have lost 4 playoff games to the Chiefs already in this era. And there's Allen with the ball, and there's this one play that doesn't work out. And then, mostly myself will say, but they gave up 30 points, each one of these games. And McDermott is gone now, but they're giving up points in the 30s to Bo Nix and to, whoever else. I know how great Mahomes is. Do you side? I know you're a nuanced guy, and maybe it's never just going to be cut and dried one thing. But do you sort of feel like one position on their failures, if you will, in the playoffs are more offensive or defensive based?
I think it's about just the fact that this is a team that, in this era of football, you have to lead with one side of the field more often than not. Very rarely are you going to have a team that lucks into getting enough late round picks that hit or undrafted guys that hit where you suddenly have two great sides of the football. They're leading with offense. So if a team's able to really, an opponent's really able to take advantage of their defense, it just makes it tough because now it does come down to 1 or 2 plays for your quarterback. And it's not really, you'll hear people who do the whole stoic thing and say, well, tough, that's what he's paid to do. And you're like, yeah, I hear that, but I'm not a big believer in that because I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan just on the other side of the lake, and in the 80s, you watch that team fail, 3 times to a Broncos team that had a very Josh Allen-like player in John Elway. And I've been to more Broncos games than Browns games because my father lived in Denver and worshipped at the altar of John Elway. And so when you watch Elway and the Super Bowl losses that he had, that was kind of the narrative there for many years until they got the defense. They lucked into Terrell Davis, and that can, when you get the defense and you luck into some players who can be game-changing all-star talents at a cheap price, suddenly now you're in a position where you can run the table like that. It's like the Seahawks when they had Russell Wilson, but they had this great Legion of Boom, and they lucked into Russell Wilson enough and some of the late-round wide receivers that they had that they could make a trade for Marshawn Lynch. I don't mean to bring up anything painful, but you could make. I'm a big Marshawn Lynch fan, but you could make that trade, and then suddenly you have balance on offense and defense, and you can make a big run like that. And I think that's what happens here is that for the Bills, they've got the offense. They probably have to luck into getting some people on defense that can really be game-changing, or Allen holds out and they build up that defense, and Allen continues to play well for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe longer if you look at the way these quarterbacks are going.
Yep.
And instead of investing as much on the offensive side, maybe they can luck into some players in the offense while the defensive window has been built up to the point where it's good. I just think that what happens is that teams that get in the Super Bowl, and they tend to lead with one side of the ball, and then you just hope that one side of the ball is better than the strength of the opposing team. And I think that's just the nature of the league, and the ball bounces funny. And unfortunately, Allen and the Bills have been in that situation. But I think that for Bills fans, I mean anybody who you look at Allen, and sure, he's going to make mistakes. I mean, all quarterbacks do, but it's just a situation where they paid a premium for him. It's not like Tom Brady, where we can talk about the greatness of Bill Belichick all we want, but they got a 6th-round quarterback, and they couldn't draft a non-slot receiver for 20 years to save their life, and they made a lot of mistakes in the draft. And if they didn't have Tom Brady, it might have been a very, very different story for Bill Belichick's legacy as a head coach for everybody else. And I don't think, obviously, if I say this in New England, it's going to be differently received than Buffalo, but it's the truth, and I think that with Allen, you had to pay a premium for him. And so you got a pretty good deal with James Cook, because I think a lot of people didn't think Cook would become a 1,600-yard runner. But they thought he'd be a good playmaker. But, you're at a point now that your offense is good enough. The defense, you need to luck into some foundational players that you're not going to have to get at a premium, or you can get them at a premium while Allen's still in town, and being able to be accommodating, to try and help this team extend its contention window.
No lack of trying on defense. Real quick, Matt, if I can ask you one more thing just in a minute or so.
Yeah.
You mentioned his name earlier. Skylar Bell. You like him?
Love him. I think he's a strange player for me to love, in the sense of this, is that most guys who clap onto the ball, they don't have their hands together as the ball arrives. I've been kind of down on. Marvin Harrison Jr., Quentin Johnston were two guys that I liked a lot about their game, but felt they had some trapdoors to what was going on, because they don't attack the ball with the type of technique that you need to see without fighting it. And there's only been like a few players that I've studied in 21 years who were exceptions to that rule. And those exceptional players tended to be able to show that they could catch with proper technique when needed, and that when they did use these clap attacking type of techniques, that they did it in difficult situations, came down with the ball, and they were able to reduce their drop rates. And Skylar Bell fits all those categories in terms of being that exception to the rule. And the guys who were exceptions to that rule that I've watched were guys like Golden Tate, Marvin Harrison Sr., and those are two of the bigger names, and Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is another one. I think if there's a guy who can be that exception to the rule, it's Bell. So he's the first guy in years, compared to, say, Marvin Harrison or Quentin Johnston, who have some of these issues. I'm actually betting on Bell to succeed.
Nice.
And I think that he's someone that if he's asked to play a lot this year, or earns his playing time, you could, maybe this year is going to be modest, but you could see him very easily get 65 to 75 targets this year if they move on with, say, from Keon Coleman, or somebody gets hurt or struggles, and you could see him start to shine in a way where they realize that they're going to have to make him a part of that rotational starter or a starter by next year.
Thank you, Matt. I'm always so delighted when you come on. We'll see you in the Football Diehards League coming up soon.
Sounds good, my man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Matt Waldman, footballguys.com, and the rookie scouting portfolio does tons of work. So many of these analysts we're lucky enough to connect with really put the long hours in, and Matt is certainly at or near the top of that list. All right, back to ranting about the Jack Adams Award. Should we just do more of that? That feels right. 803-0550. Do you get it at all? John Cooper wins. Do you get it at all? I don't get it at all. Lines open. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog back tomorrow. This is WGR. Whatever. 1 seed, 14, 15 wins, whatever it was. And they beat the Bills in the course of it, if it matters. And Lamar Jackson runs away with the MVP award. And smart people, starting with Aaron Schatz, who was the one person to vote for Allen that year. One person did so. And so, like, well, this doesn't really hold water that well. Like, okay, well, that's fair. I mean, that's a very thoughtful, intelligent guy who cares a lot about the meaning of his vote. Then 24 happens, and Jackson had his best season ever, and Allen didn't have his best season ever, and Allen won. And there was a little bit of that in the air, was there not? Like, just sort of, well, you know, he was kind of due. So be it. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck, right? I mean, I know that that's a real thing. It doesn't mean that it doesn't suck. It should never be how anybody votes for anything. Am I being too pie in the sky, altruistic? I like this about myself, and most people in my world don't get it. Every once in a while, somebody sends you, a ballot, an election for some person of the year, video of the year, cupcake of the year. Oh, you need to vote for this person. Why? Because they're in Buffalo. Like, well, I think that sucks because I've never eaten any of the other cupcakes. And even if they're in El Paso, I don't know that it's not better. I can't vote for that. We're doing okay. We don't need this award as a community, do we? We just don't need that. We're just going to... I want to vote for you if you deserve it. And where you're born, I don't care. I want to vote for you if you deserve it. That's my ethos when it comes to voting on things. So now we're that much closer, you and me. What is the argument for John Cooper? What is the argument? Team Canada? Team Canada blew it. Like, it's not even, what if you had decided, like the second caller ago, I thought he was, making good points. What if you had decided going into the Olympics that John Cooper should win the Jack Adams? Did you watch the Olympics? Did you then watch another NHL game for 2 months? What did you just, was it all just signed, sealed, delivered? I don't have the bandwidth anymore to think about this. I don't pay attention to the standings. I don't really care about my job. I'm just done. I'm too busy. I've got kids. I've got a mortgage. I can't devote 5 more seconds to this. So I'm not going to watch 2.5 months more of professional hockey. I just can't do it. You're gone. Like, if you actually make that vote and pretend to have cared about the last 10 weeks of hockey, you're gone. I just don't see how you should get to keep your vote. What is the argument? Win the division. Okay, didn't. Beat the Sabres head-to-head. Well, didn't. Have the lesser team. Didn't. Anything. What else is there to say? Sal Capaccio coming up at 4. Thanks for your calls. More coming up. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight between the Knicks and the Spurs. The game is in San Antonio with tip-off at 8:30. Some good injury news for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson is expected to be available tonight following right-hand surgery. That according to ESPN reporter Shams Charania. And heading into the Finals, the Spurs looking for their first title since 2014, their 6th overall. Well, the Knicks, they're looking for their 3rd overall, but first since 1973. Over in the NHL, we had more awards today, and today was the Jack Adams, and it goes to Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper after finishing second in the Atlantic to Buffalo and taking home the silver medal at the Olympics. Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons did speak with the media earlier this afternoon. He said he still has about 4 months left on his rehab after suffering a torn ACL late in the season. And the Packers, they do have a strict 9-month no football recovery policy for players who do have multiple torn ACLs. So Parsons, his return looks to be closer towards October. And 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has been issued an arrest warrant for a misdemeanor tied to speeding. And in baseball, big win this afternoon for the Bisons. They took down Worcester 12-0. Then in the majors, Mets at Seattle. New York is up in that game 6-1 in the 6th. The Yankees have the Guardians in town at 7:05, and the Jays, they are down in Atlanta versus the Braves at 7:15. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I've got an incredibly hardworking staff. I talked about continuity last year. I talked about the ability to keep more moving forward. I really like my staff. Of all the staffs I've had on the teams I've coached, these guys have dug in, day in, night after night, from nearly 6:30 in the morning every day, 7 days a week, to when playoffs ended.
Lindy Ruff, not snubbed as miffed as I am by this, it's still not snubbed, but does not win the Jack Adams Award. John Cooper does. I don't get it. You want to take a whack at it? 803-0550 is the number. Been asking all day, online and in here, what is the argument for Cooper? Like what, why, how? Second place, team really didn't exceed expectations significantly. It's not that they weren't good, but that's often a coach of the year narrative in any sport is, well, we thought you would be here, but you actually were here. That's usually what happens. They have star players, sometimes even the Sabres. You take a team that doesn't have like established elite players and they have a big year, that looks better on a coach. I don't know. It's a little bit, I mean, I've said this about multiple other examples. It's a little bit unfair to a coach that's got a team like that and is always expected to be good, because then what is a good coaching job? Do they have to go undefeated? Like, what would do it? And I'm sure a lot of, if not all of them, a lot of these voters are reasonable people, and they would probably think of that. The most common retort I've seen all day to my tweet about just like, who can even defend this intelligently is, well, he's been a top coach for a long time. Do you need me to tell you what I think about that point? I don't care. That's not how this works. You know what that's good for? The Hall of Fame. He's been a top coach for a long time. Great. Maybe you'll make the Hall of Fame. That's what that's for. It's not for a given year. And, you know, actually, they're tied together because you more easily make the Hall of Fame if you've won awards like this. It just doesn't feel right. And I would say to try to be as fair as possible to this. So, okay, John Cooper, 13, 14 years, the Lightning have almost always been excellent. Certainly not ignoring that. Lifetime achievement. It's neither relevant that the Sabres have been a doormat for almost that entire time. But it is relevant that they were one last year. That is relevant. That's what bakes into Coach of the Year in sports is, what did you do year to year? I don't need the drought to make the argument for Ruff. It's really not quite fair to do that, because I want to resist using the lifetime achievement point for Cooper. because really it shouldn't matter. What it does establish a certain baseline or whatever standard your organization has, and I want to make sure I'm as fair about that as possible, because what the Sabres had, if this isn't a funny word to use, established, is a very low standard. And this year, shockingly, they came along and smashed through the glass ceiling and went through Tampa to do it, even head-to-head. But it's really not about what Jack Eichel meant to the Sabres or Ralph Kruger. It's really just about that this team was not betting line. I think betting line matters. If we're doing this from an objective perspective on expectations, the Sabres' expectations objectively from the outside were to finish in points-wise in the high 80s. That was the number or the range. And the Lightning would have been at least, I think, 10 points higher than that. Like, it was no surprise to anyone that Tampa was good. They were not as good as the Sabres were in the end, and still somehow, despite meeting expectations, or even in terms of the position in the standings, arguably falling short. That's tough on Tampa, but they did finish second. Their guy wins Coach of the Year over the guy who finished first, and the expectations were quite not the same. I don't get it. I know that I had a bet on it. I know that I'm in Buffalo, and I even have known Lindy Ruff, and I'm looking at this. I can't be completely objective, I'm sure, because of all those points. But, man, this award is one for me over the years that often it's hilarious because we don't really know that much about how good of a coaching job anybody really did. There's a lot of luck in the sport. You shoot X percentage, you get Y save percentage, and you're a great coach this year. And this award is flooded with guys that have just been fired 2 years after winning it. Well, how great of a coach were they? Just, the luck point stands out, I think, when it comes to Coach of the Year. I just wasn't prepared. If you think the Sabres were lucky, really lucky, I don't think they were really lucky, but they did have some good fortune, relatively speaking. Why did this have to be the year where that flipped? And I would ask this, too. Again, I've said this today already. Dahlin shows up on the Norris finalists list and is a distant third. It's a good result for him. I was hoping he would win or just come closer to winning, but top three. Quinn Hughes didn't make the top three. That's a good result for him. He deserved it. He didn't come that close to winning. Werenski won, and then Makar. Okay. Now you have Ruff, who loses Coach of the Year to the team he beat, kind of shockingly, and went through the Lightning to do it with 3 late season wins, all in regulation. Who then was responsible for this? Who are the voters in any context waiting to give the credit to for the Sabres? Who is it? Is there going to be a shocking? I mean, the finalists are. Thompson's not going to win the Hart Trophy. He can't. The finalists are out. That's not happening. There's no other Sabre in position to win anything. How did this? Can we just politely ask anybody who voted for this award? How do you explain it then? How did this happen? You're going to tell me just because Kevin Adams was fired and everybody just sort of had a fire lit under him from that? Maybe a little bit of truth in that. But look at the change. They were 11-18. More than a third of the way through the season. What happened? Who is responsible for it? The coach isn't, because he couldn't even beat the Lightning coach, and the Lightning didn't win anything. So he must not be deserving of credit. Dahlin, third's good, but it wasn't like they had any particular player that lifted them over everybody else. Well, what happened then? I don't know. I'm just baffled by this vote. Obviously, right? You can tell. Here's Larry next. Hi, Larry.
Hey, how's it going, Schopp? I agree. The fact that Ruff didn't win this award just goes to the fact that the majority of those awards are just jokes when it comes to Coach of the Year, stuff like that. I mean, if you look at where the Sabres were projected to finish, I didn't see preseason anybody projecting the Sabres to be, higher than like bottom 5 in the league. I mean, I think the highest I saw them was maybe like 24th or 25th best team going into the season. You look at Tampa Bay, everybody had them. They're a perennial top 5 team in the league. I mean, I think you change Cooper with any other coach, and Tampa Bay is just as good, if not better. And not only that, it wasn't the fact that Buffalo just limped into the playoffs. They got into the playoffs in a year where it would have taken them 99 points or 100 points just to get into the playoffs. Where there's been sometimes 99 points was good enough to get you a division lead or pretty close.
Vegas had 90.
I mean, so the
95,
fact that the East was this tight this year, this competitive this year, and the fact that Ruff was still able to not only break a drought, get them the number 2 seed, win a division title. I just don't know what else you wanted from the guy. Playoffs don't count, so he could have won a Stanley Cup, and it's not going to make a bit of difference for Coach of the Year. I just don't see what Cooper did. Not only the fact, I mean, from when the Sabres made their turnaround in December, how far ahead at that point were Tampa Bay in points? What were they? Did they have the Sabres by 10, 15 points by that time?
Maybe.
I mean, it had to have been a good margin. So not only the fact did the Sabres win the division, but, I mean, you caught up a lot of points on Tampa Bay in half a season.
Well, you know what, Larry, right. I mean, you beat him to the wire. That's all I care about. Somebody was telling me earlier that, the Sabres started so badly. I don't care. What difference does the order make? 82 games, you finished ahead. Do we care about in a horse race? Well, the horse actually was only third after the quarter pole. We don't care about that. Who won? Just put them in. You're not saying different. Put them in any order you want. I mean, the Sabres were not, betting line-wise, projected to be that bad, as you said at the beginning. But they were just outside of the playoff mix. You make the point about what it took this year. L.A. was the team. L.A. got in with 90 points. Vegas had 95. Still, Washington had 95. I mean, Vegas is leading the finals. That's how that goes. We got to get out there. We got to get to that division. I don't know. Like, I'm saying it over and over, and you're saying it too. I can't figure it out. I don't want to settle for these awards are pointless. Something's got to matter. You know, like, I've gotten that way about a lot of things, Hall of Fame votes and just different things, and I can tend to just not want to care about it. It's just too weird. I mean, like this, for example, it just sometimes doesn't make sense. And so you can't really change anything, just whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I am especially confused by this one. Thanks, Larry. Again, Mike Schopp here, back after this on WGR. Thanks for listening. Mike Schopp here, Bulldog back tomorrow. Let's go to Mark next. Hi, Mark.
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
What's up?
Yeah, I'm with you on this whole Coach of the Year snub for Lindy Ruff. Shame on the voters. I feel like it plays into that Buffalo versus everybody mentality. Curious to get your thoughts on if this puts a chip on the shoulders of the players for next season. I'll hang up and listen to your thoughts.
Okay. I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, you can kind of have that anytime you want it. You can manufacture it. I doubt Coach of the Year goes that, deeply into their veins, Ruff has won the year before. I don't think he's disrespected. I don't think he had to win this. But he was a huge favorite in the end, and I think Cooper winning it is ridiculous. I mean, just how? What did he do that was so interesting and special? I think you can tell me the Avalanche coach was the deserving Jack Adams winner. I mean, they had the best team. Okay. Brind'Amour, his team was in first all year. Okay, you could do that, but that's not usually how this goes. And what did Cooper do that was anything? I mean, really, no offense. I want to mention my guy, Michael Antonius. Get to know that name. I've mentioned him a couple of times. He is 16 and into the quarterfinals at the Juniors French Open. I think that's actually how they call it, what they call it, the Juniors French Open. Beat the 2 seed today, so he's into the final 8, plays the 5 seed tomorrow morning, our time, around 7:30, I think it is. I don't know where you can see it. HBO and TNT have the French Open, and maybe they have with all the how sophisticated and advanced it all is. I mean, we've watched. He's a family friend. His family and mine have known each other through my wife and his dad a long time, and we've watched a lot of his matches. He's won big tournaments and a lot of around the world. We've just watched them on YouTube or online. I wonder if that's even possible here. It probably is, but I just wanted to say his name. He's one of the top junior tennis players, boys tennis players in the world. And he's from Buffalo. So you probably should, get into him. Quarterfinals, so 8 left tomorrow morning at the Juniors French Open. Not Seniors French Open, but the French Open has been pretty wild, men and women. Lots of surprises, lots of new names. So maybe you're into that. But I'm excited for Big Mike. He was little Mikey. Now he's Big Mike in the Juniors French tomorrow morning. So Sal comes on, and we usually talk Bills, and we did plenty of that, but also just on the Lindy Ruff thing and what is good coaching? How do we know? Sal and I on the subject and more coming up after the update. Mike Schopp here, WGR.